My name is Amelia. I want to share my story with you today. It is the story of my life, the life of a mother who had to fight every day for her child's future. It is a story full of hardships, pain, and sometimes hope. I am sure many of you can relate to what I went through. I was born in a small village in a country far away. My parents were poor, but they always tried their best to give me a good life. I grew up in a small house with my two brothers. We did not have many things, but we had love. My mother, Maria, was a hard-working woman. She worked day and night, sewing clothes for the people in our village to help support our family. My father, on the other hand, was a man who loved his family, but was often sick. He could not work much, so my mother took care of everything. I remember when I was a little girl, I would often watch my mother sewing clothes for others. She worked in the dim light of a small room with only a small lamp. I would sit beside her and watch her hands move quickly and carefully, stitching fabric together. She would hum a soft song as she worked. It was a melody that always brought peace to my heart. But deep inside, I could see the tiredness in her eyes. I could feel her pain, even though she never complained. When I was 16, something terrible happened. My father passed away. It was a very sad time for our family. My mother was left alone to take care of us. She became even more determined to provide for us, even though her heart was broken. She worked harder than ever before. But no matter how hard she worked, there was never enough money to go around. Sometimes, we did not have enough food to eat. Other times, we had to borrow clothes from our neighbors just to go to school. Despite the difficulties, my mother always told me, "Amelia, never give up. You have to be strong. Life will not be easy, but you must keep moving forward." I did my best to listen to her. I studied hard at school, hoping one day I could make her proud. At the age of 18, I fell in love with a man named David. He was kind and handsome, and he promised me a better life. I was excited to marry him, thinking it would bring happiness and ease to my life. But soon after we married, things started to change. David was not the man I thought he was. He became distant and cold. He would often drink too much and come home late at night. He promised to change, but he never did. I found myself trapped in a marriage that was slowly falling apart. I was no longer the young girl who dreamed of a happy life. I was a woman who had to face the harsh realities of life. But even in my pain, I had my son, Ethan. He was the light of my life. The moment I held him in my arms, I knew I had to do everything for him. David's behavior only got worse. He started to abuse me emotionally, calling me useless and lazy. He would say that I was a failure and that I would never amount to anything. The words hurt, but I never let him see me cry. I had my son, and he needed me. I had to be strong for him. One day, I had enough. I decided to leave David. It was not an easy decision, but I knew it was the right one for me and for Ethan. I packed my bags and left the house with my son. We went to live in a small apartment in the city. Life was not easy, but I knew I had made the right choice. I had to build a new life for my son. I started working as a cleaning lady in a hotel. The hours were long and the pay was low, but it was all I could do. I worked from early morning until late at night. I cleaned rooms, changed bedsheets, and washed dishes. It was hard, exhausting work, but I kept going. Every time I felt like giving up, I thought about my son. Ethan needed me. I could not let him down. I remember one night, after a long day of work, I sat down on my bed and cried. I cried because I was tired. I cried because I missed the days when life was easier. I cried because I wanted more for my son. I wanted him to have the life I never had. But then I looked at Ethan, who was sleeping peacefully beside me, and I knew I could not stop. I had to keep going no matter what. As the years passed, I slowly built a life for Ethan and me. I moved from the small apartment to a better one. I saved money, and I was able to send Ethan to a good school. He grew up to be a smart and kind young man, and I was proud of him. Every day, I worked hard to give him the life I could not have. As Ethan grew older, I noticed something beautiful happening. He was not like the other kids. He was different, in the best way possible. Despite the struggles we had gone through, he was kind, thoughtful, and always eager to help others. I always told him, "Ethan, no matter where life takes you, never forget your roots. Remember, you come from a place of strength." He would smile at me and say, "I won't, Mom. I promise." But even with his kind nature, life was not always easy for him either. As he entered high school, I could see the pressure building on him. School was tough, and he was struggling with balancing academics and work. He often stayed up late studying, trying to make up for the time he lost during the day when he helped me with housework. Sometimes I would stay up late too, just to check on him, making sure he was okay. He didn't want to admit it, but I knew he was exhausted. I knew that deep inside, he was carrying the weight of our past, even though he never complained. One evening, after a particularly long day, Ethan came home and slumped down on the couch beside me. He looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Mom, I don't know if I can do this anymore. It's just too hard. I feel like I'm carrying the world on my shoulders." My heart broke hearing him say that. I knew exactly how he felt because I had felt the same way many times in my life. I had carried my own burdens, working day and night, and it was sometimes too much to bear. But in that moment, I realized something. I realized that I had to be the strength for him now, just as he had always been my strength. I took a deep breath and I said to him, "Ethan, I know it's hard, but you don't have to carry it all on your own. We're a team, and we will get through this together. I've seen you grow into an amazing young man. You have so much potential, and no matter how tough things get, I know you will find your way." Ethan looked at me and smiled. "Thanks, Mom," he said softly. "I'll keep going. For you." Those words meant the world to me. As a mother, there is no greater gift than seeing your child grow up to be someone who understands the value of hard work, perseverance, and love. I knew that no matter how difficult life had been for us, we had made it this far because we had each other. And that was enough for me. But life wasn't done testing us. One day, I came home to find a letter in the mailbox. It was from the hospital. I opened it, and my heart sank. It was a notice telling me that I had to undergo surgery for a serious medical condition. The doctors had found something that could potentially affect my health long term. My mind started to race. I had worked so hard for Ethan, and now I was facing the possibility of not being able to take care of him. What would happen if I didn't make it through the surgery? What would happen to my son? I couldn't tell Ethan right away. I didn't want him to worry. So I kept the news to myself and tried to act normal. I went about my daily routine, cleaning houses, making dinner, and helping Ethan with his homework. But inside, I was terrified. I didn't want to leave him alone in this world. He had already been through so much. The thought of him losing me made my chest tighten. The day of the surgery arrived, and I told Ethan that I was just going to the hospital for a checkup. I didn't want him to be scared, but he could sense something was wrong. As I was about to leave, he hugged me tightly and said, "Mom, everything is going to be okay, right?" I smiled, even though my heart was breaking. "Of course, Ethan. Everything will be fine. I'll be back before you know it." The surgery was long and difficult. I woke up in a cold, sterile room, groggy and confused. My body felt weak, and the pain was overwhelming. But the first thing I did was reach for my phone. I had to check on Ethan. I sent him a quick text, letting him know I was okay. He replied almost immediately, with a heart emoji. It made me feel a little better, knowing that he wasn't worried. Over the next few weeks, I struggled with recovery. I could barely move, and every day was a reminder of how fragile life could be. But through it all, Ethan was there. He took care of me, making sure I ate and helping me with the smallest tasks. He would sit by my side, holding my hand, and telling me stories to cheer me up. His presence was the only thing that kept me going. I could see how much he had grown, both physically and emotionally. He was becoming a young man, responsible and caring. I was so proud of him. One day, after my recovery was well underway, I sat down with Ethan and told him everything. I explained to him the full extent of my condition and what I had been through. I told him that even though life had been difficult, it had also taught me some very important lessons. The most important one being that no matter what happens, we have to keep moving forward. We have to face the challenges life throws at us with strength and courage. Ethan listened quietly, his eyes wide with understanding. After I finished, he said, "Mom, you're the strongest person I know. You've been through so much and you're still here. I can't imagine how hard it must have been for you. But I want you to know that I'm here for you, just like you've always been here for me. We'll get through everything together." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Ethan," I whispered. "You don't know how much your words mean to me." As time passed, my health improved, and life slowly started to feel normal again. But I never forgot the lessons I had learned from my journey. I never forgot the strength I found in myself and the strength I saw in Ethan. Through every hardship, we had become stronger. We had learned that love, determination, and hope could overcome anything.